17 years old. So, and David found you where?
I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was working with a voice teacher who was a neighbor of ours named Seth Riggs, and his son went to my school.
Okay.
So he said, "Come on over, and I'll give you a few lessons." So his dad was a voice teacher. Right. At the time, I'd go over there, and Stevie Wonder was walking out, and Michael Jackson was walking out, and all these people were like.
So not just your average voice.
No, he was like to the stars voice teacher,
right.
you know. So he could afford to give me some free lessons, you know, and so he was cool that way, and I'd go for sleepovers and birthday parties and stuff,
right.
and then he'd give me some lessons, and so and it was David Foster calling him saying, "Hey, I'm in a real clinch. I'm doing the Governor of California's inauguration concert. I don't have my singer that was Michael Crawford from Phantom of the Opera backed out." And he said, "Who have you got who's young? I don't want a pro. Give me somebody who's young, who can sing, who knows music of the night, who can get in here and kick ass for us." So he sent in 5 tapes of 5 of his different people that he was working with. I went in and recorded basically my first demo tape ever. And he picked me, and it was a life-changing experience. My dad was kind of up in the bleacher seats, and he kind of filmed me with a shaky camera, and I was in a really ill-fitting tuxedo, and sang that song for like 23,000 people in the round with a full orchestra.
And at that point, how much performance experience had you had? 23,000 people.
Playing the non-singing role of Mr. Scheinkopf in Fame the Musical was basically my claim to fame at that moment in time.
Were you just freaking out?
I had one line in that show, which was "No more rock and roll." And so, I was freaking out. It was completely freaking out. That was a time when nerves, and I was not like an uber confident kid either. I mean, I was, being an arts kid and being kind of, in that world, it was kind of the outcast a little bit. So before I knew it was done, I was off the stage, gave David a big hug. My parents, who were and still are very real world, very much, rooted in the notion that this could lead nowhere. This is a great experience, you know what I mean? Like they were not stage parents. They were not, being in Los Angeles. They had very normal jobs, and I just knew when I gave David a hug after that event, and I just said thank you, that we'd be doing something again. And the next time he had me singing was with Celine Dion at the Grammy rehearsals in 1999. I was 17 3/4. No, she was singing The Prayer with Andrea Bocelli, who was sick. Again, I got so lucky being this kid that somehow had this big voice, and all these kind of Uber legends were just kind of like, I don't feel good. Little did they know I was on their heels. I was like, have a Kleenex, you'll be fine. When that first record came out, we weren't writing it for radio. We weren't producing it really even for our label at the time. We didn't know if we could break even, if we could sell maybe 50, 60,000 copies, we will have had a nice run. And in some ways, that vision hasn't changed at all in the making of the next 6 records. It was really simple, which was that David and I had a really great connection. He knew what my voice did best at the time, and I wanted to move people with singing. I just wanted to find music, or write music, which I didn't wind up doing till later, that made other people feel the way I felt when I listened to great singers that I really appreciated and listened to music that I appreciated. I grew up, going to, the LA Music Center, and my parents brought me to a lot of great things. And I would walk out of there with chills, just feeling very different than the ordinary fan. I wasn't just humming it and wearing the hat. I wanted to be that vessel at some point. So basically, David, especially at the time being the VP of Warner Brothers Records, kind of said, don't worry about, being the hype, the hit, the big thing, and which was a crazy thing to hear. And we didn't worry about it. And we were selling 400 copies a week, and I'd be going into the meetings, and somebody would come in and go, Linkin Park, 80,000 copies, congratulations. All right, okay. Well.
So the album was out there, and it started to gain some momentum, or started to change?
I don't know, because I was going to Virgin Megastores when they still existed, and putting on sunglasses, not that I needed them at the time, and kind of saying, do you have that Josh Groban CD? I'm looking for it everywhere, and I just can't find it. What a lovely young voice he has, And they're like, who's that? Josh Brolin? I didn't know he sang. And so they would have to pull. I'd keep finding that they'd have to pull it out of storage from way, way down in the depths of.
So then you get right on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was Bed Bath & Beyond. I was in the Beyond section. I was way down. This will never sell section. So they would pull one out for me, and I was like, oh, excellent. You really should put these out in front. And so it went from that to, and I had done a number of different things. I'd sung in the Olympics. I'd I'd been on the Rosie O'Donnell show, who was very supportive early on. It wasn't until 2020 wound up kind of doing a story about me. It was I think primarily based on a wonderful New York Times piece, actually, that came out, where you guys kind of wrote a really wonderful article, and they said, we want to do a story, we want to interview you, and we want to connect the dots. So what they did was they kind of basically said to that 2020 audience, you've seen him here, 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 and here. Here's where you can ask for his CD, and here's his name, and here's his face, and here's his hair, and that was the light bulb that the country kind of turned on, and I went from being 148 on the charts the week prior to being number 8 the next week. It was that fast, and Oprah followed, and then it was all she wrote.
What's your relationship with sort of the public on the street? How often are you recognized? And
it happens, but I can fly pretty low under the radar. I mean, I think that
sunglasses and the baseball hat?
No, I think just being me sometimes. I'm Mr. Cellophane at times. I think that there's an energy you can turn on and turn off. You know, and I think that when I'm walking, I'm going from point A to point B, and they may have recognized me, but by the time they've done this, I'm already 2 blocks away. So, but the cool thing about New York too is that when somebody does come up to you to say something, it winds up kind of turning into a great conversation. You know, it's a really nice thing. If somebody wants to shake your hand and tell you a story about a song that meant something to them, or in one case, there was a cardiac anesthesiologist on the express train, and she just comes to New York for fun, and she's in DC, and said that I was like the #1 requested CD for patients who needed to relax before they're put under for surgery.
Oh my God, that is lovely.
I mean, that was like almost a compliment, like.
Wait. I think that qualifies.
I think it does too.
Compliment.
Yes, it totally does.
I don't think the Ramones ever.
He puts me right out. Let me tell you, so it's fascinating. I was sad that it was her stop because I wanted to talk to her more, But it's cool. I always meet interesting fans, and I would never want to lose my ability to interact with the city.
How do you still work on what you do, like technically as a singer, and how are you trying to improve? Like, what are things that you don't feel like you're good enough at that you're trying to do better?
Well, I mean, at 31, I feel like my voice is just kind of finding a maturity that, I was still very much a student when I got signed, and I'm still very much a student. I mean, I think that when you're signed very young and you have to sing very heavy music, where they're not coming for the grunge, they're coming for a purity of singing.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure, and so I have always taken lessons. I continue to take lessons. I continue to try and take lessons 2-3 times a week. I try to, do the right warm-ups, try to eat and drink the right things. We're all crazy. Singers are crazy because it's in you. I can't polish it and put it away and then go party. And there are times where after show 75, you really wish you could let your hair down that way. But it's all mental, and it's all vibrations, and it's all this weird stuff. So you really need an outside figure to kind of point you in the right direction and keep you well tuned. And so I it's something that I don't take for granted.